Some British parliamentarians are calling for Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard to be branded a terrorist organization. They say the IRGC poses an increasing threat on UK soil. They also point to the crackdown on protesters in Iran and the recent execution of Iranian British national Alireza Akbari. Arise News chief correspondent John Cookson reports now from London.
These are the Revolutionary Guard in action recently on manoeuvres in southern Iran. The movement, born out of the 1979 uprising which swept Ayatollah Khomeini to power, are not only the main enforcers of the Islamic regime in Iran, but their remit stretches beyond to countries including Lebanon, Syria and Yemen. Not only that, they also carry out extrajudicial killings in Europe of enemies of Iran's religious leadership.
When I was much younger, I went to Turkey to help Iranian refugees, and we were successful in doing that. On my way back to Istanbul airport, my car was ambushed in the broad daylight. I was shot in the chest and also in the abdomen. I was seriously wounded, was taken to a hospital, international hospital in Istanbul. And I was in a coma condition for 45 days at least. And nearly 4 months I was fighting, to stay alive.
This press conference, which I believe is an important one.
Unlike the European Parliament and the US government, the UK has rejected calls to prescribe Iran's IRGC as a terrorist group. London currently favours international sanctions against senior figures. However, there's a growing pressure for that policy to change.
The IRGC is an arm of the Iranian state which is used to promote terrorism, to export terrorism right across the world, the UK included. And in fact, only last year, MI5 estimated that Iranian forces were behind 10 murder and terrorism plots on British soil. That was later revised by the Metropolitan Police to 15. And the Sunday Times reported recently that the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, considers the IRGC to be the single greatest threat to the United Kingdom. So given that we have this level of concern about the IRGC, I think that the time is long overdue for it to be proscribed as a terrorist organisation by the British government.
The IRGC are expected to be out in force to crack down in Iran in just over a week on possible protests on the first anniversary of the death of Mahsa Amini, who had been detained by the morality police for allegedly wearing her headscarf too loosely. Iran saw months of anti-government protests after her death. Some British cabinet ministers say that branding the Revolutionary Guard as a terror organisation will end any hopes of reviving the Iran nuclear deal. But other ministers believe that that agreement meant to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions is dead in the water anyway. John Cookson, Arise News, Westminster.
And John Cookson joins me now live from London for more on this. Good to see you, John. What else did you learn at the Iranian opposition group's press conference?
CRI meetings are always very interesting because they have a huge network of agents in Iran, and they're a kind of umbrella group for many opposition groups, so they have fantastic connections. And basically what we heard at the press conference was that the Revolutionary Guard, which most major ports in Iran, like Bandar Abbas, is siphoning off approximately 1 million barrels of oil a day, and they've been acquiring medium-sized tankers and super tankers and filling them with oil and shipping them to all parts of the world in gross breach of that have been in place against Iran for many decades now. And what they're doing from what they get from that, the returns, the billions of dollars that they're earning, is financing terrorism, suppressing opposition at home, and carrying out attacks on foreign soil. At least between 500 and 900 opposition people have been, according to the NCRI, have been murdered in recent years, and 33,000 have been arrested. You've got to remember the Revolutionary Guard is a very, very powerful organization within Iran. It's a state within a state. Not only do they carry out dirty work abroad, but they also assist Houthi rebels in Yemen. And down on a much lower level, they control the imports of, say, foreign cars like Mercedes into Iran. If you want a decent car, you go to ICRG to agent to get one. I mean, they permeate the whole of society, and as I say, the kind of state within a state. So the big question tonight is, because Iran is supposed to be under sanctions, but is earning through this activity enough income to get by, why is the West turning a blind eye at the moment? It's hard to say, because certainly intelligence agencies like MI5, MI6, the CIA, and other intelligence networks around the world aware of what's going on. I think the answer to that is that they're so preoccupied at the moment with Russia, Ukraine, and the growing threat in the Far East from China, North Korea, and their ties with Russia, to actually get down to and get with this situation in Iran. But certainly, what we heard from the press conferences is new, in that the Revolutionary Guard are getting hold of these tankers and making a lot of money out of them to finance terror.
Likely is the Sunak government to brand Iran's Revolutionary Guard a terrorist group?
I've heard all the arguments, and one of the biggest is that the British government, under the new Minister of Defence, Grant Shapps, is prepared to brand the Wagner Group in Russia as a terror organisation. But the Foreign Office is shying away from this idea. And if you talk to Foreign Office officials, they'll tell you that they are so frightened, they're so worried about retaliation from Iran, remembering, of course, that in the background they want to get the nuclear deal that we agreed in 2015 back on track. If the Revolutionary Guard is branded a terror organisation, that's going to set things back. Although, as I said in my report, movement is a little bit dead in the water. But don't forget, there are up to a dozen dual national prisoners languishing in Iranian jail. British, Austrian, American, and the reprisals could be quite severe. You mentioned in the intro the execution of Mr. Shibari in January on spying charges, and I think the Foreign Office is worried that further executions could follow. So, and also because the Revolutionary Guard, to me, is much bigger than the Wagner Group. The Revolutionary Guard, there's about 200,000 members in total, 90,000 active. That's much, much bigger than the Wagner Group, which is about 30,000. So I don't think can really be made between the Wagner Group and the Revolutionary Guard. The Revolutionary Guard play a much bigger role, not only in Iran, but in the Middle East.
Before I let you go, John, there's a search underway in the UK for a terror suspect accused of spying for Iran. What more can you tell us?
Yes, indeed. It's Daniel Khalif, 21 years old, former member of the British Army, escaped under a prison food truck that was leaving Wandsworth Jail in southwest London yesterday. He just vanished into thin air. He strapped himself somehow under the truck and somehow disappeared in the mile. The police intercepted the truck. Now, if he was working for Iran, maybe Iranian agents have already spirited him out of the country, or certainly got him to perhaps a safe house. But it's certainly causing some problems at ports like Dover, where huge queues have been building up as customs and police officials look for this escapee. Also, Heathrow Airport, Gatwick, other airports throughout the country, very busy at the moment as a result of slow lines as passports are thoroughly checked. But so far tonight, he hasn't been spotted since he escaped. he has just vanished into thin air, much to the embarrassment, of course, of the police authorities and prison authorities and the British government, which has been accused of running down the number of personnel running British jails, and the Labour opposition are hammering home that fact at the moment. It seems that he has disappeared without trace, and it is a nationwide manhunt, unprecedented in recent years in the UK.
John Cookson, many thanks.